Hello and welcome to this very special episode of PitchCraft. In episodes so far, we've got the founder perspective on their very first deck. But on this episode of PitchCraft, we are going to help you curate the ultimate pitch deck that will be relevant for the years going forward, that's relevant for a startup building in India with India first idea, something that's not just a mental model of the West. And to help us with that, we're in conversation with Pratik Agarwal, partner at Accel. Thank you very much, Pratik, for joining us on PitchCraft. It's been a very exciting season 1 and 2 for us. We've had the founders of some of India's biggest startups who are now also listed, a lot of unicorns on the show. But this is going to be a different episode because together we're going to come up with the ultimate pitch deck or the universal pitch memo, as you like to call it. Yeah. But before we get to that, to those actionable insights that founders look forward to, give us a sense of how the context has changed. The environment has changed what the playbook has changed, the conviction, the beliefs have changed in the last 10 years.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me, and it's a privilege to talk to you and share some of these ideas. Hopefully they find their way to the next iconic founder. It's important to reflect on why is this a good time to have this conversation, and we could have had this 5 years ago. Maybe it was relevant, maybe not so much. I personally feel this is a very special time in the startup ecosystem. So if you look at the history, Indian startup ecosystem, give or take, is 15-20 years now, and we have had some very iconic companies already built. The optimism is all-time high, the capitalism is all-time high, the founder intent and energy is all-time high. That said, there's a change. The change is the first 15 years, in some way, globally and in India, it was in a deployment cycle. There were big technological tectonic shifts with mobile as well as cloud, which created opportunities to upgrade the consumer experience as well as like the business productivity. And we saw all these companies getting built. Like we had the fortune to partner with Flipkart and Swiggy and Urban Company and Freshworks and Browser Stacks, right? And these ideas, these technologies, when they come about, it takes like a decade to fully harvest them, to fully understand them, appreciate them, convert those tools to products that consumers and businesses can apply in their day-to-day life and progress. And I feel like in India and outside, that's kind of mature now. And so we are moving from this like well-established playbooks that founders can look to, get inspired from, and apply their energies to make it happen for Indian consumers as well as Indian businesses. To now, like globally and in India, we've kind of run out of those playbooks. And the changes are very different. The tailwinds are very different. Like in India, there's this, we are on our path to becoming a developed nation. Consumers have their aspirations as at all-time high, confidence is high. There's people talk about premiumization and all other trends. And similarly, globally on the technology side, generative AI is like a massive shift, which asks us what's possible now, right? And I feel that this environment change that we are moving from this kind of playbook era to conviction era has a lot of implications on what does it mean for founders, what kind of ideas they can start or should start. What does it mean for investors? How do they screen and deploy the capital that they're interested with in the betterment of society? So this environment is very here and now. And this, we'll talk more about what it means for founders and investors, and then eventually how it translates into how founders should communicate their business in a pitch deck.
Right. You spoke about how, we are in a very different period in terms of the ideas coming out of the ecosystem. And I think we're already witnessing that, right? I mean, you wouldn't see an urban company elsewhere, a Rapido-like model
Absolutely.
elsewhere.
Maya 3 or something like that.
Yeah. So these are founders have sort of moved to that.
Yes.
They have the confidence that, India has unique problems for which you need unique solutions. But have investors, also move past that because they're more comfortable, especially global investors, when they have a mental map.
Yes,
is this the Uber of India? Is this the delivery hero of India?
100%.
Is this the Instacart of India, and so on?
Actually, that's a great question. And every investor, it's their job to day in and day out look for the next big idea that can have transformative impact for consumers and businesses. And so we sense this, and people are adjusting to this new reality, and every investor is adapting to this uniquely. In some way, previous era, the idea was that you need to find out what are the well-proven models and then go find the best team that can make that impact in India and adjust to the Indian market conditions. And now with these new ideas come out, the investor problem solving is different. Like they cannot just assume that this idea would work. So there's a lot more thinking that needs to go into just appreciate, is there a deep pain point here? Is this insight, is this insight the winning insight to get the success for the customer? And so investors have this new checklist of now comparing like a supply chain AI company to a healthcare, some rural healthcare, to something in social commerce, all in the same day. This was never true before. And so investors have to adjust to this.
Right. And in terms of the nature of jobs for founders and investors, how have those roles changed?
See, for the founders, previously it was a lot about like if you have the energy, you can look up to like a long list of ideas that have not happened yet in India, right? And then be the team that makes it happen. But if you look at it now there are no such low-hanging fruit. Now we moved from the idea of iteration to invention, imagination, right? And so founders have to bottoms up pay attention to what are the pain points native to Indian market, and then immerse themselves in the customer environment to get some insights around how to potentially solve for it, right? And then because the investors are also unfamiliar with these ideas, they have to evangelize. It's not just
enough to execute.
It's not enough to execute. You have to evangelize now to your customers, to your team, to your investors. So the founder job is very different. Similarly, it has repercussions on the investor side. It's not about like invest in the best team or choose the best team in this category. Like it's about, will this category even exist? And you have to decode the future now. Does this idea belong in the future? Does it not? So the job is very different now.
Right. You also mentioned previously, Pratik, that to cope with this new complexity, investors have developed some kind of a universal checklist.
Yes.
Again, considering we are talking in the context of India versus the West, we are talking in the context of AI, which is already huge in the West. Will these universal principles apply?
Yeah. So actually, it is elegant and surprising that these, I think they will apply. If you look at it this way from an investor point of view, in the previous era, you were comparing pitches of 3 peers. The 3 of them are going after like a logistics opportunity, 3 of them are going after some apparel e-commerce opportunity, right? But now you have to compare not just with these 3 peers, you have to compare with 300 different ideas. So if you are in the investor's seat, you do need some forcing function to force rank all ideas against every other idea, right? And so that has created a need for an investors to kind of abstract out what makes for a first principle important business, not from some reference point, but from the grounds up what makes for an exciting opportunity that can have a lot of impact, right? As I said, they're comparing like a social commerce company to a supply chain company to a mental health app, all in the same day. So with the absence of that universal checklist, it can become very overwhelming and you're prone to making like big errors in judgment. So I'll talk more about what that checklist might entail. But this universal language, if understood by founders, it will make their job also much easier, because then they know what is the language to communicate their business in that will find audience with the right investor and get on the top of that list. Because even the volume of activity now is at all-time high. It's like the number of startups, it's like a few thousands now every year that are getting propped up. And the quality of founders is also much higher. A lot of people have experience working in startup environments. They know what it takes. They have an intuition for like first principle problem solving, and then ambition, which is as high as ever. So for an investor, like both the diversity of ideas and the volume of ideas is dialed up by order of magnitude, which has forced this need to create a universal level playing field to evaluate ideas.
Right. And investors seem to have a checklist. Founders don't seem to know about this universal checklist.
Yeah.
So that's where we come to the heart of this conversation, which is what you're proposing, core.
Yes.
Tell us about what core is, why is
Sure.
it so special, why should founders pay attention to it?
Yeah, I'm hoping that like the reason I tried a few acronyms. The reason why I chose core is because it represents the essence that a pitch should communicate. It should communicate the core of your idea, right? It's not about the aesthetics. It's about what's the essence of your idea and why is it important. So core today, what I propose stands for like the change in the market. So that's C, the opportunity that it presents, the resilience of your idea or the merit of your idea, and your unique edge. Like, what's your unique perspective on this space? What is your vision for this space?
So let's recap that. Change is the first part, opportunity, resilience, and the edge or the USP that investors always look for.
Yeah, so these are like the 4 pillars of this new philosophy. And we will talk about like a 12-point checklist that converts this philosophy into a toolkit that a founder can action for their ideas, and any founder, irrespective of what you're building. I hope that the core remains the same, that there is this universal language which now will remove this opacity between the founders and the investors. Because a lot of time, the founders, in the absence of this transparency or understanding of what the investor understands, they throw everything at the wall. They would have many slides, many formats, many cuts, many data points, because they don't really have the confidence that or clarity on what's truly important. So we hope in this new era where like evangelization is needed, as we discussed, and not just differentiation. A lot more has to go into build that conviction. And investors have to bet early now. Founders have to imagine, and investors have to take a leap of faith. So you really need to solicit that conviction from the investors. And if you communicate the core of the idea in this way, it will make that job a little bit easier.
And if you've managed to encapsulate this in your pitch, you're confident that it will convince an investor sitting in India, US, Japan, Europe, anywhere.
Yeah, like I've not built this out in isolation. Like we've been at Accel, we've been practitioners of this for a few years now, and like I've had the benefit of working with many of my colleagues who've had like very, very deep experience. So we've kind of formed this together. I've iterated upon it. I have actually, as we'll later discuss, some of the companies that we work with, we try to implement this when they go out and try to get their next believer. And so this is a little bit battle tested, and I'm guessing like after this episode, many people would come back and share feedback on what they like, what they don't like. Both, I'm hoping, and it's not just from the founders, but also the investors. Because I truly hope that this becomes like YC has invented this safe format for fundraising. This really made the life of founders much easier, also of investors, arguably. And I hope this core can make the life of what YC solves for fundraising, solves for fundraising. Hopefully this will solve for storytelling.
Great. That's a great way of putting it, Pratik. So now we break down the 12 slides of core.
Yes.
Let's start with the first aspect, which is change.
Yes.
In terms of what's shifted in the world that makes a startup's idea urgent and inevitable.
Yes, absolutely. See, the world is fairly efficient. Capitalism ensures enough incentive to solve for any supply where their demand exists. So unless there is a big change in society, like you would have to assume that this idea was never important. There is a reason why like maybe a wood flavored ice cream doesn't exist, because nobody wants it. But charcoal flavor does, people want it, right? So change is really important. That's like the birthplace of an important opportunity. And so in this format, in this 12-point format, and I've tried to keep it necessary and sufficient and universal, and I'll explain maybe later why I feel this is all 3 of those. But so change starts with your vision for the world. So the first thing that you have to communicate is if they are wildly successful, if what you believe becomes real, then how would society be better for it? And so you have to start with like this large picture that maybe like we have invested in a company called Sarala Aviation, which is trying to solve, like, as you know, in Bangalore, the congestion is a little bit of an issue. So Sarala Aviation solved that. Like their hope is that forget about congestion, we will move to teleportation-like transport in India. So that's their vision for the future. And I would believe that regardless of what profession you are in, if you're an active citizen of society, when you hear something like that, you will be pulled by it. You'd be at least curious that okay, that you're
On
going
what this is.
what
Yeah.
is this? So that's the goal of the vision. The goal of the vision is to just get that excitement from the people. What do you believe about the future? Is it important enough, right? Then the second point is, what is the summary of like, why is this deck important? As I said, like
The hook.
the hook, yeah. Any active investor today get thousands of pitch decks a year. My
How
guess.
many do you get?
I don't keep a count, but my guess is somewhere 2 to 3,000 a year, and that's me individually. So Accel overall
Have you
will
now
10,000
developed
plus.
an AI tool to kind of sort these
I don't
texts?
know about the AI tool, but I feel like some version down the line of core can help us kind of quickly get to the
Filter
ones,
the.
yes, like which are the founders who have done the work to have that clarity. And I hope like in some way in future, like if the core checklist is there, like you get to a meeting with me in 30 minutes and I can meet you in 30 minutes. So that's the hope over time. Yeah, so the second point, the second checklist after your vision for the world is, why is this tech important? Why should I pay attention to this today? And this captures a little bit about the summary of everything.
Yeah.
And every idea, when you meet, they're different vectors of the hook, right? Something can be, this team is extra special. Like they know something most people don't. They have some very privileged experience and they now wish to kind of scale their understanding. Sometimes it can be the market, that this is a really important problem, like the congestion problem. Now, regardless of whoever is pursuing it, if somebody sincerely pursuing like pollution for India, it deserves an audience, right? And the third thing can be just bottoms-up adoption, like you have something that's working, and there's no proof of success, then traction. Like if there is bottom-up demand for something, that's the hook. So in the summary, like if the founder can catch on to one of these hooks, right, and establish credibility that like I should be on the top of your priority, that you should pay attention to my deck.
Right.
That would I put at the second slide.
And the third one would be about what has changed. Why now?
The third one actually is the neighborhood. Like, is this an important neighborhood? Because there are different problems, right? And like we are constrained by the amount of capital we have and the amount of time we have to allocate our network, our capital, our credibility, our talent pool to some problem statement. We cannot fund everything. And so it's very important that, are you going after something important? And this is, see, I don't use the word like a large TAM, because that kind of throws people off and creates this justification, a need to justify something in numbers. But if I say something that, you know, I'm going to solve for pollution. Now, what is the TAM of pollution? It's very difficult to articulate, right? Like, what is the TAM? What's worth TAM? What's TAM? But I'm going to say, if somebody says that I'm going after like in-city pollution in India's largest metros, it is important. And as anybody, any good citizen, I said, can understand and appreciate that. So you have to communicate that somewhat simply, appeal to like the human, and not go after like, not assume that an investor is some Accel junkie who's looking for this and this, like 1 billion is enough, but 1 billion is not enough, but 500, you know, something like that. So that's the third point. Like, you have to convey that this is important to people, like this is a burning problem for people. The fourth is what you said, that like something has changed recently. And this is really important, as I said, alluded earlier, like markets are fairly efficient. There are a lot of supply. There's a lot of energy in entrepreneurs. In India, is even more pronounced, right? Lack of formal employment. People do this jugaad for every problem that they can find. So you have to have a clear articulation about whether it's a technological enablement, it's a regulatory change, it's a societal preference change, like premiumization. Something tech can be Gen AI, regulation can be, for example, we are invested in a company called Vyom that's trying to build broadband, at-home broadband for the masses. And that's only enabled by a PM Vani regulation. It was impossible to do that before. So it's important for the founder to articulate that, because then it says that there's a credible opportunity now, right? So that's the fourth point. And the fifth point is that people are desperate for a solution. See, everybody, if I ask you what are the problems in your life, like I'm guessing you could illustrate like a few, maybe 15, maybe more. But for the 15th problem, if somebody presents a solution, it may not catch your fancy. You may not be like, okay, I sign up for this today. Because everybody has limited mind span as a consumer or a business. And they want to prioritize, they always know that some fires will keep on burning. They cannot solve everything today. So you have to find something that people are desperate for. That's top of mind.
Okay.
Because unless it is top of mind, you could argue it's not a good allocation of the founder's energy. It's not a good allocation of the investor's capital and the customer's mind share. So somebody has to be desperate for this today. And obviously that segment that is desperate can be small today. And then over time, the people who are desperate can expand over time. For example, we are invested in a company called Open House that is building like preschool for the modern parent, right? And like for a working couple, like I'm guessing that's your household as well. It is hard. I have a parent, two kids now, and it's really hard. Me and my wife, we both work. We both have demanding jobs, but we also have like aspirations and responsibility to our children. And you could argue that this population is relatively new in society, in Indian society, right? But it's in this last 4, 5 year, 10-year flavor. It wasn't there maybe 30 years ago. But you can also be confident that this population is also growing. But you can say that there are some enough of people that are desperate for it already. And that market condition needs to be there for a startup to have that initial foothold. And hence, all of this is the change.
Got it.
Yeah.
So we've covered the C of core, change, and within that 4 aspects, which is why this deck deserves to be read, why this is an important neighborhood, what has changed, more importantly, the timing. Are people desperate for your solution?
Today,
So this covered the change aspect. So we move on to the second aspect of core, the O, which is opportunity.
Yeah. Like what is the opportunity you see as a founder?
Right, right. So opportunity in terms of what's the real painful solution that you're solving, and are you seeing enough adoption? Are you seeing enough reactions from the market?
Yes.
So what are the 3 aspects that a founder should cover within opportunity?
See, you have to convey in some way that you have unlocked this opportunity. And see, because the change has created the opportunity in some way.
Yeah.
And now with your genius, with your energies, with your dedication, with your work, you have to show some proof of work that I've uncovered this opportunity, unlocked it, and now I can serve society at scale.
Also that it's a 10x solution, as
that's
you put it,
incredibly
not
important.
just an incremental, marginal improvement.
See, if you look at it like the more incremental something is, the harder for the customer to discern that incremental innovation. If I tell you that
it has to be clutter breaking for.
Otherwise, it will not have widespread. Only people say that only the simplest ideas go viral, because simple ideas are big ideas. The more complexity a customer or the more discerning a customer needs to be to appreciate your nuance, the smaller your market segment is. You have to have a wholesale upgrade of society. At least that's what venture capital is for. Like we are not for every other founder. Like we can only serve so many people, and our responsibility towards society is to have step function improvement in customers' lives.
Yeah.
And that step function improvement only comes from a step function solution. So you have to convey that this is a 10x solution. It's unmistakably better, right? And the second option, if it is truly unmistakably better, what is the proof of it? The proof of it is that your early desperate customers have irreversibly adopted it. The word irreversible is important. Like if you're using it sometimes, not using sometimes.
So the lifetime value needs to be.
Yes, it's a permanent part of people's life. Like
where you have very good retention, people are not trying it for 1 week.
Yeah, this would be the way to communicate in numbers. But the emotion you want to tell the investor is that is irreversible. See, the numbers and all substantiate the emotion that you want to elicit, right? But the emotion you want to elicit is this is irreversible now. My customers cannot live without this. It's one way. My businesses cannot go back.
But how will you show this on the deck?
So you
with the
show
retention
numbers.
Yes.
With retention numbers, with usage numbers, with growth in usage, with frequency of usage. You have to show that it's habitual. That now customers are habitual to it.
And the third aspect of opportunity would be traction.
Yes. The third option is that there's a pull for this. That it's not something that, you have to do a lot of work to have a hand-to-hand combat with each customer. And you have to convince them that this is important, you should try it. Like the best of ideas, the customers themselves, find joy in sharing them. I'm sure in your family groups, when somebody discovers a cool app or a new hack, they would put it on the WhatsApp group. That, you know what, I discovered this new voice-taking app. Everybody in the office should use it today. And the customers are a part of your distribution in that way. So the market has to create a pull for you. The best ideas have that pull.
Right. So then this would be a startup that has already had some product market fit, that has a cohort of users, not an idea stage.
Yes, that's fair. Yeah. So this particular template, like I put for, you could say it's like for a early signs of PMF, so maybe pre-Series A to Series A kind of company. And on our website and Seed to Scale, we will add like both formats, the one preceding it and the one succeeding it, where we'd have something for idea stage founders, which would be a lot less than 12, and something for like growth stage founders would be a little bit more than 12.
Great. So we've covered the change in opportunity in core. Let's
Yes.
come to R,
Yes.
which stands for resilience.
Yes.
Again, this is a pet thing that VCs like to ask whenever
Yes.
they meet founders, right?
Yes.
What's your moat?
Yes.
Is it defensible?
Yes.
So resilience will cover that aspect
That's
of your
absolutely
business.
right. Absolutely right. See, when it's very important. You said like with some tongue in cheek that VCs really like this, right? And I want to maybe take a few seconds to address why it's really important to VCs. See, our job, as I said, is to have step function change in society at scale, right? That's the kind of ideas that we need to empower. And those ideas, like, they have to be that they get better and better as more and more people use it, because they can absorb, they can convert capital into customer success at scale, and they should get better and better and better at it. Like, it is, if you have, like, for example, if you have WhatsApp, right? Like, imagine if all of your social groups had a different WhatsApp. It would be quite cumbersome for you, because then you'll have to have 15 WhatsApps on your phone, and then you'll have to make sure that you're logged into all of them, everything. Imagine there was a Flipkart of every state. That'd be quite cumbersome for you, because then it's not just cumbersome for you as a customer, it's also cumbersome for the merchant, because they'd have to kind of manage inventory across 15 merchants. So it's really important that, like, these ideas have potential in them to become the default for society. And a default can only be one, or maybe a couple, but there cannot be 15 defaults for a customer in a particular mindshare. And that's the reason we look for ideas that can become the default. And they become the default by these mechanics of, like, moats and network effects and defensibility. Those are the mechanics. But the hope is that they become default. Because once they become default, they have the capital, resources, talent at scale to take some bold bets that a startup cannot take. So that's the reason why these models are preferred by my peers.
By peers, and I'm
by
sure
myself,
you're
for
including
sure, yeah.
yourself in that
100%,
category.
100%.
Which brings us to the final part of core, edge.
Yes.
Again, what is your right to win, quote
absolutely,
unquote?
Absolutely. See, in some way, the change is not necessarily created by the founder. It is created by market forces, it is created by technological forces, created by social forces or other forces. The opportunity is created by change, but your perspective on it is your edge. Like, how do you believe, what is the future of, like, a meeting experience, a business meeting experience now that the AI exists? What is the future of, like, transportation now that electric vehicles exist? What is the future of, what's the future of payments now that UPI exists, right? And there is some artist element to this. There is some element of a personal perspective, an imagination, a belief, right? Where you have to convey that, I have this belief and we have this belief as a team that we are going after this opportunity in this specific way, which we believe is superior for the customer, is superior for society over time. And that you have to communicate, you have to have a clear vision. You need to be able to, a founder has to kind of traverse between, like, here and now and, like, the forever franchise that they're trying to build, one sentence to the next. So it's a difficult job, but that's really important to build confidence in us that we can have a one-way relationship with this team in this particular idea. And so that unique edge, the founders' lived experience, their obsession about a particular value, that's really important to be communicated.
Those were examples, but there is an actual deck that you have, which has applied these principles of core, 12 sharp slides, which captures everything from change to opportunity to resilience to edge. And that's the pitch deck we're going to show you today on this episode. That this is not just theory, some gyan that Pratik is giving, but something that's been applied by a company called Credgenics. How they've applied core, all the principles of core on every slide. Pratik, take it away. Credgenics is a very interesting startup in the AI-powered loan collection space. How have they applied the principles of core from change to opportunity to resilience to edge in their deck?
So this is, as you said, this is the actual deck that was used for the Series A, and they had they got, like, a very respectable investor, InvestBridge, who was like a good friend to Accel. And so this is the actual that was used for that fundraise. And if you look at the first page, if you see that they don't talk about that they are an AI-enabled debt collection service. They are saying that they're enabling lenders to accelerate financial inclusion. So this is very important. That your vision for the world is not to build a product. Your vision is the world to make something possible that is valuable, desirable, but not happening today. And so their vision is that, essentially lending is a collections business. It's very important for lenders to have the confidence to give money out.
And only when they collect money
can they give money out.
out.
And what Credgenics saw as an opportunity was lenders with the existing technologies at the time could only address certain kinds of segments. And Credgenics' thesis was that if we make the collections technology better, modern, more trustworthy, the lenders would have more confidence to help expand financial inclusions to people who didn't have that access today. So that's how at least they see them, that's how they see their product roadmap, and that's their North Star. And so this like when an investor sees something like this, and if it is credible, then it's good. An investor would like to have something where, they are doing good for society or making good business. So that's like the vision part, as I said, what is their vision for the world? Then if you come to the second slide, where they talk about the market opportunity. So here they talk about, like, it's no secret that financial services is the backrock of any economy. India is no different. And most people in the industry know that, like, as you said, like, giving money out is maybe easy. Like, if I stand out and start giving money, I'd have a lot of traction.
Collecting is
the hard part.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people do say in the industry also lending is a collections business. It's not a giving money out business. And so they mention that this is an important problem. Like collections and everything to do with collections, modernizing collection, you should pay attention. This is important.
Right.
So that established that.
And the third is where the changes have come in to disrupt the collection space.
Absolutely.
Where they've given context on digitization, which happened because of COVID.
Absolutely.
And the opportunity that they see there.
So they clearly spelled out that this company couldn't have been built in any other year. Like those were the years where there was COVID kind of almost
because collections as a problem has existed for decades.
For decades. Like banks had been lending and collecting for decades. But like in COVID, all the physical forms were at standstill. And so it was extremely important to digitize those journeys. And then that also showed the desperation. Because, and the next point, right? Like not just a lot of change, but this is a time where people are desperate for it also. Because in that time, in that kind of financial environment that COVID had created, lenders were extra concerned about collections efficiency. And so that created desperation to adopt a solution, which would otherwise have taken a long time.
Right. And then they come with a Delta 4 solution, very catchy term.
It's actually not mine, it's from a friend, Kunal Shah. It's very well known, but I quite like it. I think it's very practical, and people call it 10x solution, Delta 4 solution, whatever. But the idea is the same, that it's a step function improvement over the incumbency. And so they talk about, and if you look at the slides, they're clear before and after. They talk about the life cycle of a collection for any loan. What are the different interventions that lenders do in that process? What was the status quo of doing that at that point? What were the challenges from that? And then they do a like-to-like comparison with our technology. All these challenges are alleviated in a meaningful way.
Right.
And to any logical person, it would make sense that I would have, if you can have this, why would you have that? Right? And then they add on some more credibility to their claim by showing like a little bit about their product demo and like appealing to like these are the modules that they have.
So I think they delved into what their solution is in the next couple of slides.
Correct.
And then they talk about the irreversible adoption that you mentioned, the chart, the graph that you have.
And actually, if they even the logos they show is important there.
HDFC Bank and
because these are people with
Bank.
taste, right? HDFC Bank wouldn't take any Tom, Dick and Harry to kind of outsource their collections to those people. So this shows credibility that like if HDFC Bank has trusted them, then there may be some merit. You should pay attention to this company, right? And as I said, the purpose of the pitch deck is speaking to the investor, you should pay attention to my company. Like, because there are 3,000 other people who are all entrepreneurial, they have all their dreams, but the investor is limited by their time.
So the last part of opportunity, which is how the market
Yes, this is again to kind of further their claim that like they have a pull from the market, they have a lot of demand, and they would put the investors' money to good use.
Right. And then we come to the third part, which is
The
the resilience.
is absolutely.
Why they are defensible at scale and profitable.
Yes. And finally, they talk about their vision. That like this is just the beginning. As I said, they started with this first product. They've launched many products since, but they talked about it that we will not stop till we feel confident that like the lenders are confident about financial inclusion.
Right.
And they continue to add more products to their suite, continue to yield technology in their benefit.
Great. And the final one captures the edge, which is the founding team,
Yes.
where they come from, the leadership team, and they've called it a founder market fit.
Yes. Yeah, so as you said, like, but if you look at this deck, I wouldn't say by any stretch of imagination this is the most beautiful deck that you would have seen. Like, there's no fluff, but it answers the questions. And it's not like a pitch deck is not like it's not like a piece of art. It's a piece of business communication. It should be designed for effectiveness, not necessarily just elegance, right? And so I feel it balances a lot of these questions, the checklist that investors has, quite well in a sequence that is logical. I think the sequence we didn't talk about much, but the sequence, the progressive nature of the sequence going from C to O to R to E is also important.
And it goes from the big picture to the small, to the details, and then it kind of zooms out again towards the end. On that note, Pratik, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of PitchCraft. You heard out Pratik with a universal pitch memo and an example to back it up of an actual startup that used this format to bag funding. So if you want to check out the memo, the template, what aspects you need to have on each slide, go to seed2scale.com. And as Pratik said, these are 12 aspects that you need to incorporate in your 12 slides. And if you get that right, it will appeal to any investor sitting anywhere and get your pitch the attention it needs. Thank you very much, Pratik, for slicing, dicing, and putting it together so well and so simply. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time and giving me an opportunity to present this.